Welcome back to the Gaming Project. This is part 6 in the tutorial series of game objects, and here's a bunch of photos of different objects that you could potentially use. Anything from radio to sacks to cases to, tables to hats. So any kind of prop you can think of, you can just download an image off the internet and kind of work from. Today we're actually going to work from a crate idea, and we'll model it here. It's very simple to do in Autodesk Maya. So here's a bunch of crates and barrels. Here's another one that has some crates that are very simple. So you can do a simple one like this. I'm going to show you how to do some with some little bit more detail. Like this one perhaps. So let's start off with a cube in Maya. So all you got to do is go to the poly modeling shelf, click on the cube, and then scale it up a little bit. So I'm going to hit R, which is a scale tool here, and just grab from the middle cube and kind of scale it up to appropriate size. Again, you can look up real measurements online, but you could just, while you're working here, until you compare it to other parts to kind of get an idea. If I have the oil drum here, for example, I can kind of compare the size and be like, oh yeah, this should be a little bit smaller or bigger based on that object there. So I'm going to turn off the oil drum here. And what we're going to use is the modeling toolkit. Click on this little guy here. And the one we're going to use right away is the extrude key. So this one, extrude tool right here. Click this. And with the extrude open here, don't click on anything. What you're going to do is immediately click on this part that says keep faces together. You're going to click off. Once you do that, click once on the blue cube right here. And then click on the center cube and drag to the left. And you'll start to see what happens. So we create a sort of bevel insert all the way around. And you kind of want it to be, however thick you want. You just drag to the left if you want it to be a little bit thicker. Then all you gotta do is click the extrude key again. Or if you're like me, you like hotkeys, I'm gonna hit the G key. And let's do G. And then grab the blue needle and just drag inwards like this a little bit. And all of a sudden you have essentially the makings of a crate. Pretty easy to do, right? So at this point, you can go back to object mode, and you pretty much have it at this point. I mean, the only thing you need is some slats to put in the front, and that is basically just used with a simple another cube. So I'm going to click on the poly cube again, hit W, move it forward, and I am going to turn on under shading wireframe on shade. It's just a little easier to see the geometry. And then what I could do with this piece of geometry is I can, go to the scale tool and kind of scale it. So I'm going to flatten it and kind of, get it in the shape of like a flat board, and then just scale it up, basically like that. Let's flatten out a little bit more, maybe a little bit wider. Something like that looks pretty good. And basically all you'd have to do then is align it, put it in here. You could have several of these lined up along the side, and basically just kind of repeat. You could do it that way, just by hitting Control D to duplicate. So this would be one way to do it, and then hit Shift D to repeat that action and get like a couple of slots, and have something like in there. And that would be one way. Another way, if you wanted to have the cross beam like that, what you'd want to do is take one of these, pull it out, and then rotate it. So you have to hit E for rotation, and kind of rotate it a certain degree, and then just kind of move it in place, and then scale it up into that place. Now, scaling up into the place, you could hide the geometry if you go into scale this way. So you could have it like it's hidden inside. So you don't necessarily have to have like a perfect kind of aligned geometry, but you could pull it in just a smidge like that, and voila. And then you just have to repeat that on the other sides. There is lots of different ways to do that. You could group all this stuff together. So if I select these pieces by holding the Shift key, I can hit Control G, makes it a group, and it's in the center here, which is really nice. And then I could rotate around the other sides using that duplicate special. So if I go to Edit, Duplicate Special, go to the options, and here we could rotate a certain amount on the y-axis, and then put however many copies. So in here we probably need 3 more copies, it looks like, and then click Apply, and you could see what would happen as it rotates around. So looks like 45 is not going to do it. So you have to kind of figure out the degree that you want. Let's try 90 degrees. Click apply. 90 looks like the correct one. And that one rotates all around, and you can see how they all went around like that. So then you would just have to do one up there and one down there, and you're good to go. But pretty much that's it. Pretty easy to do for a crate. You can then add bevels wherever you want. Bevels, pretty much you could bevel everything on here, I would suggest. So if I select this piece of geometry, or just click bevel, and then keep the bevel nice and tight, maybe with 0.2, maybe 0.1. Let's try 0.1. And then give it like 2 divisions, say. And that looks pretty good. So if we hit the number 3 key on that, you can see we still have nice forms there. And if I turn off under shading, the wireframe unshaded, you can see the kind of the cool little highlights we get on the corners there. So that looks pretty good. But basically, that's how you create a crate in Autodesk Maya. Very, very simple, easy to use. Again, the main gist is when you do the extrude, is just make sure you check that box, keep faces off, and then after that, you're ready to go. Just draw another cube and create some slats, and bam, ready to go. So at the end, pretend this is all done, I would select all this and then group it together by hitting Control G, and it would be like a master group essentially. Then you can name it in the channel box. Click in here and name it, crate, and then GP for group. And that's it. So that is the end of this tutorial. Until next time, see you soon in Autodesk Maya. Cheers!